Thank you so much, Dr. Linda Huxtable. I love you and I appreciate you. And you are a whirlwind of information. So we have a lot of topics that we could talk now in the future. So it's going to be hard to keep it short because we're so passionate about what we do. So tell me about your background.
Okay, so I started my practice. I started learning about alternative health from very, 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 very young age. I basically grew up using a lot of the things I know today. I was raised on a farm. My mother was, they didn't have money, so we were raised learning how to do what we're all trying to relearn today. Composting, shearing the sheep, making the dye from what we found, dyeing the wool, carding the wool, spinning the wool on a spinning machine. We know those old wool spinning things that you see. We actually used ours.
Wow.
Knitting the wool. Everything I made, all my clothes were made from scratch. I even made the patterns. Everything we did, preserving the food. That's how I grew up. I went to a one-room schoolhouse. And we used the plants for medicine. If you stepped on a nail, you hop down to the house, and my mother would use potato or something to draw it out with, one of the plants called plantain leaf, to draw the infection out. We didn't call a doctor. We didn't have the money. We called it for sometimes for the big animals. We had a lot of animals. But I had a healthy mistrust when I saw a very healthy horse die in hours after they got a tetanus shot. So, and I was very sensitive to all medicine. So I really didn't want anything. I wanted to use plants and food as medicine. And the only people that I could really learn from at that time were people like Adele Davis. Do you remember who she was?
No.
Well, Adele Davis was one of the first nutritionists in the world. And I basically grew up, sitting by her chair, listening to her. I grew up, I listened to Dr. Shoup. I listened to Linus Pauling, but they were it. And when I think of where we started and how far we've come, they didn't even know what a biological dentist was. They had no idea that mercury was so toxic. My mother had a litter of children. She had 6 children. I was oldest. They took me to the neighboring town, dropped me off, and he filled my mouth full of mercury. He filled that's the way it was so different. Now what we have available, and through understanding thermography and understanding SpectraCell and understanding about eating and understanding bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, understanding how and why cancer, which is a metabolic disease, is so prevalent. We never in my life would I have imagined we would have the knowledge that we have today. Never. And we all are working together. I have biological dentists across the United States, and I thank God every day for them. I couldn't do what I do without people that are as dedicated as you are to help me get people's mouths cleaned up. So I went to a one-room schoolhouse. I was self-taught for a lot of my life. Then I went to Yale. I was in the first class of women that went to Yale. That was a horrible experience. I knew I really didn't belong there. I had a very strong relationship, spiritual relationship with God. And I got my information directly from the source, from him. That's how I figured stuff out. And he would tell me,
because
every world would tell you one thing and God would tell me another thing. I trusted God always, my whole life.
So God, when you are seeing patients, you're guided intuitively by God. That's
exactly.
Because, he knows what each patient needs.
He knows. He's the only healer. He's the true healer. And I believe we have discernment that we have to tap into, and we have to we have to listen to it. We have to use our God-given gifts to be able to help people find true healing. But it's every person's relationship with the Creator that they're going to find true healing. That's where the healing comes from, not us. We're just tools that help them on this pathway. Right?
So you know a lot, and you see a lot of patients that have cancer. I'm seeing a lot of young people with cancer.
Oh my gosh, more and more.
Yes. So I am on a mission. Masi is helping me do more podcasts because she has following a lot of people, young people following her. And there's young people that are influencers that have become my patients. And I am in shock on how sick the young people are. People with a root canal on a tooth that is linked to the colon with colon cancer. People with root canals on the front teeth that are connected to the ovaries that have had their endometrium and the ovaries removed. People that are young in their 20s that have, brain cancer with root canals on the, roots on the brain. So we are like, Masi, you have to really spread the information to the young people because, we all people, we are close to dying, but at 20 something, come on. Like what have they done wrong to deserve to be shortchanged about their lives,
Exactly.
So we're taking this a little bit more, I'm more passionate because the young people don't deserve this.
They don't.
Mercury.
What have we done to them? What kind of world have we left for them? The children are getting sick.
Right.
It's a terrible, terrible situation. And I see the same thing you see. I see so many young people with metastatic cancer. I see so many.
So tell me, how can we bring hope to these people? What would be your approach? What kind of testing? The thermography. Tell me, like, if I was a patient, what would you tell me?
Well, I do a lot. I educate people for everything from what is in their mouth to what they eat, to how many times a day they go to the bathroom, to do they sweat. I look at everything. Were they vaccinated?
Oh, God.
That's just a huge piece of the problem, all the vaccinations we're seeing.
Yeah. And we don't want to even talk about the new one.
It's not a vaccine. The new one is gene experimentation. It's not a vaccine. But the vaccines definitely are a problem.
Yeah.
I see kids. I have a new patient now, and her mother, proudly told me she had all the vaccines. She's been autoimmune since she's been 6 years old. She's had Crohn's disease, and she's on biologics, and they think they're doing a good job.
Right.
It's just.
And how many vaccines did she get? Like 82?
Something like that. She got every single one of them.
Yeah,
by the time they're 6, they by the time they're a teenager, they get in the 80s now.
Right. That is horrifying.
It's horrifying. If you read what was in those vaccine lists, you would absolutely, nobody in their right mind would put that into their body. If you read what was in it and looked up what was in it, you wouldn't put it in a defenseless human being's body.
Right.
You wouldn't choose that. Where did people get the idea that they could use toxic things like root canals, like mercury, like dissimilar metals, like all the things that are used, like the vaccines, like glyphosates, like the garbage food that they eat, and that the body was not going to shut down in some way, shape, or form and become sick. And what I do is, I'm going to share my screen now.
Yeah, show
We're
us.
going to try.
Oh, goodies, yeah. Show you. Oh, these
So
are
can you see that?
Yeah, I can see the thermography of a patient.
Okay, so this is an older thermography, but I like it because it really shows the infection that this patient had in his mouth.
Yes.
And it shows it going down. And this patient has 2 cancers. He has 2 primaries.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been a patient for a long time. And you see it draining down into the neck.
Yeah.
Okay. And
the lymph nodes.
yeah. And now he's still not out of the woods. He will always have cancer, but he has a pretty darn good life. So a newer scan. This is a newer scan. And
okay.
the pictures are really great when we use BTI, and when we use this company, which I highly recommend, because I see these scans every day of my life, and I see them from all different companies,
right?
And a lot of them are more like cartoons. So I recommend.
What is the name of the company?
It's PACT, P-A-C-T, or it's also called BTI. It's the best thermography company out there. There is no other one that is even close.
All right.
And
do they have representatives that are doing this thermography in our area here for Lauderdale, Boca?
We did have somebody, Christine Schwartz, who's doing it, and she's just retired. And so we're looking for somebody in your area, because I have a lot of patients down there. And what we're having to do is have thermography technicians travel from different places to cover it until we get somebody. So I think Shanna sent you a little job description.
Yes.
If you know anyone who's interested, this would be a great job. If I were younger, I'd probably learn how to do it, but I already do enough. But it's absolutely a great tool. And having patients all over the United States and international, I really depend on this to physically see the patient, see their structure. We talk about sweating, and you can see here, this is classic breast cancer. Yeah. And we pick up breast cancer or other cancers because of a suspicious pattern of vascularity that has to be there before we get a tumor bigger than a BB.
Yeah.
Way before thermography can pick it up, mammography. And mammography is outlawed in some countries because of the radiation. It causes breast cancer.
Right. I just went to my OBGYN, a new one, and she asked me, when was your last mammography? And she gives me a prescription. I'm like, no, I have been doing thermography. And she's like, that's below the standard of care. You know, what do I say? Radiating somebody with radiation should be below the standard of care.
Exactly.
Thermography, you can see things right away, and it's not damaging somebody whatsoever.
Well, we all need to speak up.
Yeah.
We got into this situation because we thought it was better to keep quiet and not.
You know what? People are not open. I was speaking to her, and she shut down.
That's what they do, but that's okay. If she shuts down, she shuts down. It's not on you. You're speaking truth. Right. And someday and you don't know. It's a seed you're planting. You don't know. Maybe the next person or the next person or the 15th person will come in, and they'll realize that. So what's interesting about this scan is that I had never met this patient. I remember who it is now. And I suspected, because of what I was seeing in the thyroid and the neck, that the breast cancer was related to what was going on in the mouth. And sure enough, she went to a biological dentist. She had major, massive infection in the mouth. And this is what we find. You know, Dr. Cintron, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And you can see on this picture, you can see the toxicity under the axillary space, under the armpit on the left. And this is where the lymph is, by the side of the breast there, adjacent to the breast. And most of my cancer patients, I'll ask them a simple question. I say, do you sweat? And they say, no, I have never sweat. I don't sweat. Right. I'm like, you're going to get cancer if you don't have it already, because the body is made to get rid of toxins through sweating. And I explain infrared and why they need infrared therapy.
Did she had a root canal on the number 4?
She has a bunch of root canals,
Yeah.
and she has a bunch of periodontal infection.
Right.
It's knocking her thyroid out, and she didn't have the money.
Right.
And she just really didn't want to live badly enough to get it.
She just needs to get the teeth out, even, if she doesn't replace them, because it's better to have no teeth than have teeth that
You're
are infected.
100% right.
And that's what I tell the patients, don't spend the money, just get the teeth out.
Mhm.
It's better not to have the teeth and the gum infection than to have that give you cancer.
You see here the belly. This is called dysbiosis.
Right.
And it's the swelling. She's a very thin person.
Yes.
And this is swelling because of a dysbiosis in the microbiome. And she has very poor circulation through the backs of the arms, through the buttocks. You see the hands, there's no circulation in the hands.
Yeah.
And when we step back and look, you can see not only is her whole alignment is off, and the alignment is very important to consider, but for many reasons. But we see the complete lack of lymphatic movement in the supraclavicular area, and how it's knocking the thyroid out. And many, many, many years ago, I remember reading a study showing that people with that did not have hypothyroidism managed had a 50% higher mortality rate of dying from all types of death from metastatic cancer.
Right.
And at that time I was doing basal metabolism which is the thermometer under your armpit.
Mm-hmm.
First thing in the morning before you move, because fully 1/3 of normal thyroid tests are not correct. They eventually finally named a new disease called subclinical hypothyroidism. Mm-hmm. And what I found was just doing a simple basal metabolism test, doing the mean of using a thermometer under the axillary space first thing in the morning and doing it for a number of days, 5 days, 2 weeks. And then I add them all up and divide it by the number, take the average or the mean. And I can tell if there is a metabolic disorder. If you are not a 97.8 or above, right around there, mm-hmm. your thyroid isn't working. You're not. Did you burn a wood you probably didn't coming from Puerto Rico, but I grew up and we burned wood for heat. Mm-hmm. And one thing we didn't do was put cardboard or Christmas paper in and expect not to have a lot of soot and smoke and chimney fire. We burned hardwood, right? It's the same thing with your thyroid. If you're not producing this heat, if you're not producing enough cellular energy, mm-hmm. your cells are programmed to divide. You have a metabolic disease. Those cells are going to divide, whether they divide as healthy human cells or as cancer cells. If they can't divide as healthy human cells because the mitochondria are not producing the energy, then what's going to happen is they're going to divide according to a very old method of cell division called anaerobic glycation or anaerobic fermentation, and that is cancer. And how do we know that this is happening? This is really interesting. We look at something, oh dear, here it is, called a spectra cell. So when I look at like a life extension or a LabCorp or something like that, and I see the, boy, is this big now, huh? I'm going to make it a little smaller. I
love spectra cell because it tells you at the cellular level.
It tells you what's getting into the cells.
Yeah.
So when you look at like a LabCorp test and it's showing, and the doctor calls the patient and says, oh my God, your vitamin D is so high. You're going to get vitamin D toxicity. And then I turn around and they're a cancer patient or another sick patient and I look at their vitamin D and it is so low because
your body's using it.
Your body's using it. The only place it can be used is inside the cell. And if the lipid membrane isn't functional, which we know by looking at the things like serine, oleic acid, different things that make up the the lipid membrane, if that membrane that surrounds every single cell isn't letting vitamin D or vitamin B or whatever in, it's like a key in a lock system, it's going to, B12 is one that I see all the time. Off the chart high. When I see it high, I know that that person usually has a B12 deficiency. I know it's not getting into the cell.
Right.
And what happens when you get a B12 deficiency? So this was a test. This person lives outside the country.
I see a lot of B12 deficiency on people with mercury.
You see it because
Or not methylating.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We see it here. I like the old way.
I want to go and do my SpectraCell right now.
I like the old way.
Put me SpectraCell lab.
Yeah, I'm doing mine right now. So this woman has the lowest. This is 3 tests in one. It's the SpectraCell.
Make it bigger.
Want it bigger again? Oh boy. We look at the SpectraCell. We look at the functional deficiencies.
Yeah.
She's got a lot. Glutathione, that's your body's major antioxidant. And her immunidex is a functional deficiency. I've never seen this before. Her low oleic acid, her Spectrox, she's very, very deficient, and borderline deficiencies.
Yeah.
So then we go down, and the Spectrox and the immunidex are done. They're separate tests. It's not just a compilation of the numbers of your antioxidants or the micronutrients that help your immune system function. These are separate tests. What they do is they put your cells into petri dishes, and then they introduce an oxidative challenge, think rust, and they measure your cell's ability to resist that oxidative challenge. And this patient, you see red. You know, you want to at least see it in the yellow and hopefully in the green.
Yeah.
And her immune function, this is all the way over to the right. Her age is 60. So her immune function should be up almost 68. And who does this test? It's sick people, right? Where do the ranges come from on all these tests?
From the sick people.
From the sick people. You want it healthy. So I get people up at 83, 84 who are this age. Right. This is where I get them to. She's high risk for anything happening to her. If it was any lower, they wouldn't have been able to do this test because they couldn't have gotten the lymphocytes to respond to the mitogen stimulation, and I would have gotten a notice.
Right.
Okay. So then we look at all of her vitamins. This is the old way of giving us the information. I like it the best. And you can see she wants to be up in the green with this little dot. And you can see some of it is borderline. Some of her B12 is okay. She's supplementing with B12. Her B1, however, isn't. Then what I do, her D3 is low. Her A and K2, these are all part of what grows healthy bones. You have to have all of this to grow healthy bones. It's not the calcium. She's also insulin resistant, and her antioxidants are very low. Then, this is so brilliant. They just started doing this. If you haven't had one recently?
No, I haven't. I'm going to get it done tomorrow.
It tells you.
I used to do that test here, but we stopped doing them. But
yeah, you should do it.
Yeah,
this is so good. It gives you the Krebs cycle. So say this was your test. I would say this says Yolanda Cintron's Krebs cycle.
Yeah.
And what it gives you is the hardware, the acetyl-CoA, the citric acid cycle, and it spits out, 39 molecules of ATP is what the mitochondria are supposed to, every place that you see a yellow or a red.
She's deficient, so the cycle doesn't go through.
Exactly.
So she has no energy and she's tired.
She has no energy. And in cancer patients, full-blown cancer, I often see all of the citric acid cycle, no green in it at all. So this is so fascinating. And so when you think of it this way, Are you a victim of cancer? If I can show you this, you make the choice. You make the choice. It's not like walking down the beach on a bright sunny day and an airplane comes down and cuts you down.
Right.
You know, you're pretty much a victim there.
Right.
You are not a victim if you understand Warburg's theory of disease. Cancer is a metabolic disease. Your cells are either going to have enough ATP to divide or they're not. This is a simplified Krebs cycle, and the abbreviation key is at the bottom. Then it shows you your methylation cycle. So you deal with this all the time. You said something very important. B12 is absolutely necessary. Remember in Europe when they used B12 as a mercury chelator? Cyanocobalamin was one of our first mercury chelators. And now, of course, we have methylmercury. But this methylation, detoxification, cellular adaptability, gene regulation happens inside of every single cell, and it happens in the liver. And it's going to determine neurotransmitter synthesis. It's going to determine everything. And I go through this and look at, that's glutathione here, GSH, see that? Yeah. That's your body's major antioxidant. So she's in big trouble. And then it gives you, and I print out for them the supplemental information so they can look up their own borderline.
Right.
And you can get that from SpectraCell. But let's go down. Another one she was deficient in, she had a functional deficiency with glutathione. And they get to read. I ask them, I tell them, you read why you need glutathione. Right. And you begin reading why you need glutathione, and you're like, well, you can't really live without enough glutathione. And so anyway, this is great. And she's deficient in the Immunidex as well.
So say this patient had a mouth full of mercury, and we got it out, and they are doing the SpectraCell. What would be your detox protocol for this particular 60-year-old that thinks that it was the bioidentical hormones?
Oh, well, I'd have to question her a lot. I look at each person and I decide where they got, what's going on with them, where is their toxicity. So I start with doing a health assessment questionnaire, and I do a graph. And I'm able to see which systems are the most symptomatic subjectively. And that enters into my thinking. For every single person, it's different. And so, like, if she's got does she have root canals?
She says, no, I haven't seen it. But most probably she has something that's dead in her mouth.
Yeah.
So no,
so when we do this DNA connections test, which you've seen, you know this test.
We do this every day on the root canal teeth.
Exactly. And you can do it on a non-vital tooth as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. We do it for the gums as well. We do collect the bacteria of periodontal
disease.
We send it.
Yeah. So, this reads like a horror story.
Yeah.
On these people. And you see
Fusobacterium.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I see the Fusobacterium bacteria that's connected to the cancer.
It is. There's a lot of things connected to cancer. Yeah. And there's also parasites, and there's viruses, there's pathogenic bacteria, and streptococcus, which goes to the heart. Right. So you ask them, how long do you think these pathogens stay in that root canal tooth or in the mouth, wherever you find them? Not maybe 1 nanosecond. They spread throughout the body. They get into the bloodstream. They go wherever they go and do their work, wherever they're commonly found, and they like to colonize to be able to grow healthily, whether it be the heart, whether it be causing cancer in some place, whether it be creating a brain lesion, whether it's creating. Each one of these has a different preferable area of the body to go and do damage to. And they don't just stay in your mouth. That's what people think.
It goes to the stomach, and it changes the biofilm on the stomach. So right there, everything is going to be whacked out in the intestine.
Exactly. Here's an amoeba species. This is a parasite.
Yeah, those are bad.
They're bad.
She
They're
has
really bad.
14.10, which is a very dangerous level. Anything over 9 is going to be on the dangerous
High
level.
risk.
High
Yeah,
risk. Yeah.
exactly. And so we see a lot of this. We see if my dentists don't have the cytomegalovirus virus, that's one of the herpes virus. This has been linked to cancer.
Right.
It's a real problem because people think their dentists are doing a good job, and they like they'll always tell me, oh, my dentist is great. I love my dentist.
Right.
You don't go to a doctor because you like the doctor.
Right.
You go to the doctor because he's supposed to be trying to save your life. Exactly. Going to a dentist who doesn't know, who has not had biological training, is like asking a mouse to guard your cheese.
Right.
You're going to lose your cheese, right? This is way more important.
Yeah.
So, whether it's sweating, whether it's a ketogenic diet, and I've been studying for this past year on the carnivore diet, which has really been challenging for me because I was a vegetarian. But what I have observed is probably close to 90% of my patients are vegans or vegetarians. And I've learned a lot. When I first came across the body of knowledge of being a carnivore, I dismissed it. Vegetables are important, right? That's what we learn. That's what we're taught. But look at all that we are taught that we've had to give up and go beyond. I'm sure you started placing mercury in people's mouths, right?
32 years ago, yes.
Look what we've had to give up. And I think of the damage that I did. Thank God I didn't vaccinate my children. Thank God I was led in a different direction. But I was a vegetarian. I, was a raw foodist. When I first started treating cancer, we didn't even call it cancer. We called it the C word. And Dr. Gerson was the only person in the world treating it. So I spent my life juicing and growing wheatgrass and growing broccoli sprouts. And now what I have found out about the toxins in plants and what I have been able to relate it to as far as the hypothyroid disease and the brassica vegetables, or the cruciferous, as more people are accustomed to calling them cruciferous, what it does to the thyroid, the isothiocyanates that interfere with proper thyroid function that are in all these things that we thought. And what really kind of turned me, because I would be happy as a vegetarian. I don't like meat, and I eat meat every single meal, and I've cured myself of so many things reluctantly.
Right.
Reluctantly.
You have tried all the diets, Dr. Huxtable.
I have tried every single thing, and I really don't like meat, but I eat every meal, grass-fed, grass-finished. I eat 2 meals a day. I'm a carnivore-ish keto person, and I have not come by it easily. I've come by it kicking and screaming. When I started thinking about
the pesticides,
what about pesticides?
Are you opposed to the vegetables because of pesticides and all that?
No. Oh, well, I only eat organic. And I wash them well. But the thing is that what they contain, the plants don't want to be eaten. And they produce something called phytoalexins, which are chemicals to ward off infestation by fungus and viruses and insects, and to prevent animals, which the humans are an animal, from eating them. And the animals with the stomachs like the cows that have 4 stomachs, they're meant to go out every day and eat all these wonderful plants. They know what plants to eat. and they get B12 and they get vitamin D from the sun. And for what? 2 million years, people ate animals. Our ancestors ate animals, and they were robust. They went through famine and all kinds of things. They slept on the ground. They went through heat, through cold, we're wimps compared to what our ancestors were.
Right. We're frail little somethings.
Yeah. We can't get out of our air conditioning, or, we might die, and I go to 2 yoga studios, and one of them is not hot yoga. The other one is hot yoga, and it's at least 105 in there. And man, I'm drenched, and nobody complains about the heat, and we're all blessed to be sweating. I go to this other studio, and everybody talks about themselves having cancer, all the people in it.
Wow.
And they do not want to sweat.
Ooh.
They do not want one drop of sweat. If they get one drop of sweat, they tell the teacher to turn the air up.
Right. Sweating is good. That the skin is the biggest detox organ in your entire body.
That's exactly right. So the animal, so our ancestors grew these big brains when they ate animals. And what did they prize? They prized the fat and the organ meats, the 2 things we're told not to eat. Everything we've been taught, basically, we have to give up. We have to rethink of the myths. And when you look at what's happening in the world, you really see how we have been so misled. And when you talk about the children that are sick, and they're all vegetarian, and they're taking birth control pills, and they're using scented products, and they don't know anything about keeping their bodies healthy. Nothing.
Yeah.
And they're eating glyphosates, and they're getting vaccines.
Or fast food. We have the young people with the teeth rotting because they're drinking soda or Sprite or any of these carbonated drinks with sugar, and the teeth are melting away.
They'll melt away. The fluoride.
Everything rotting away. The gums rotting away, the teeth rotting away, the organs. It's just like we want to shake them.
Well, we have to rethink everything, that's for sure. It's not easy. It's very challenging.
Yeah. Learning new ways of eating better. So, who do you believe nowadays with all the different diets and all the different contradictory messages about diet? Do you do according to blood types, anything?
Oh, no. That I did years ago, probably 30 years ago. That's pseudoscience. That's not based on science whatsoever. The reason the O's did so much better was because that was closest to the carnivore diet. They eat a lot of meat. Right. But, I'm very didactic, very firm as far as what kind of meat. It has to be grass-fed, grass-finished, because if the cows are fed corn or if they're fed junk, their lipid profile skews and you get too many omega-6s, and then you start getting inflammation. Right. So I teach grass-fed, grass-finished, everything, pasture-raised, the heritage breeds of the pork. The chickens are all in the pasture, running around, getting sunlight, pecking in the dirt. Dirt's a good thing.
Right.
Zach Bush is like a son to me, and I adore him. The work he's doing is so far-reaching. He's teaching us about the benefits of viruses and parasites and everything that inhabits us, that helps us to
be stronger.
Our genes to grow into making us stronger. And he's all about the soil and about sustainable farming. And that's the way that the scope that I have moved into, and really working on with a lot of people to change their mind about eating meat. It's a very hard thing. It was for me. When I first heard of this, I just wrote the people off as being morons. I hate to admit that.
Well, no, I went to dinner with you once, and you were a vegetarian, and we were feeling...
No, not when you knew me. I wasn't. I was a vegetarian way back. when I was a kid, I was a vegetarian. No, after I had my twins, I was as well, because I was skin and bones. But I started eating meat because everybody told me I looked like I was, I was one of those skinny African children, and I was going to die. And so I started eating meat a long time ago. I became keto a long time ago.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, doctor, any recommendations for our patients in terms of detox? What would be any protocols that you feel fond about that you have?
I love the infrared sauna. I love infrared sauna. I think if you do not have an infrared sauna and can't get to one, there's a sauna bag now on the market called My High. That's wonderful, but the infrared saunas are great. Getting the mercury out, doing that quicksilver test to see what their heavy metals look like.
Yeah.
Switching to keto because you're building up a carnivore keto diet. You're building what you need as far as the cells. You're healing your cells from the inside, from the lipid membranes. You're getting what you need. You need the micronutrients. So it's not so much about, when you look at Christopher Shade's mercury test, one of the great things about that is so many people try to detox when they have challenged pathways of detoxification, like they do not detox through their hair and skin, or they do not detox through their kidneys, and you see, it doesn't matter if this person is on a good detox program, they're not going to detox. You need to do Spectra Cell. You need to work with somebody who can evaluate your micronutrient status and make sure that you're detoxing and make sure that your organs are working and going to take these things out of your body, not just bring the garbage to the door and dump it, right?
Exactly. And I see that a lot. People getting weaker, they are having protocols that if they don't have the pathways open,
that's
nothing's going to get out. And then they get dizzy, migraine headaches, they feel weak, they go into AFib, they go into, rhythms of the heart that are fast and things like that.
It's toxicity and imbalance of electrolytes and magnesium deficiency. We've got to look at the micronutrient status, and we've got to correct that in people so that their bodies have what they need to work with to go through the detox. So yeah, just work with somebody who really knows what they're doing is the best idea.
Awesome.
If you can find somebody, right?
Yes. So we know you're very successful in what you do. We appreciate your time. I know that you're a universe of knowledge and you're a great doctor, very passionate. So Masi is going to be posting your information, your website and your phone number on the podcast. I love you. I
love you too. Thank you for the great work you do.
Thank you so much for everything that you do and keeping yourself in the cutting edge of helping people. And I want people to be able to have access to you. So we're going to post all your information on our dryoli.com podcast.
Sounds great.
I love you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If you have any questions or suggestions for further future topics, please leave a comment below. Thank you.